Old MacDonald had a farm. AI, 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 oh. We'd say that today because there's a lot of AI going around. And in this episode, we're going to hear some thoughts about AI, about me reporting on a keynote that I gave about artificial intelligence and other things. There's the O then there for outdoor learning. So without further ado, episode 186 of Fresh Air at 5.
I'm Matthew Woods, host of Leading Out of the Woods, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwe First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. APLN, September 22nd, 2024. We are here. This is Victoria Walder. So hi, Victoria. Walders with an S. I apologize. We are in Kamloops because we are going to be presenting to the Kamloops School District tomorrow about accessibility and about artificial intelligence and talking about that here. So on the way up here, as we're traveling, we listened to episode 23 of Embrace the Messy podcast with Shannon Shinkle. And she has on guest Big George Koros. And George, this is Victoria. She needs to meet with you when she's in Orlando coming up soon. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, Victoria. Okay. We listen, and I thank you for your interview, George, that you did. I like hearing the story about you getting your tech job at the beginning. I never heard that part before, as you talked about that and the messiness of learning, because it is messy, right? Victoria, take away from the podcast.
I think the biggest thing I took away was the fact that it's a journey. And that the idea of constantly learning and picking up where you left off. If you make mistakes, you just keep going, trying to make it right. But that it's part of life, and that, whether you're in a school or you're just doing your regular day life, we are constantly on a learning journey. So thank you for that insight.
Yes, and we are learners, I like how you talk about being a learner when you present, George, because we're all just learners in this whole thing, And as far as being the expert, yeah, we're good at some stuff, but are we the expert? No, I'm not the expert, And we're going to say it right now. We're going to present tomorrow, Victoria, and we're not the experts. But so if anybody in Kamloops is hearing this, just know that that's true, right? We're on a learning journey, and we know a little bit, hopefully, more than the people that we're presenting to, and that's what it's about. So yes, all right, Shannon. Thanks so much for having Big George on, and nice to hear both of your voices. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Hey PLN, it's Monday, September 23rd, 2024. I'm here at Valley View Secondary School in beautiful Kamloops, British Columbia. And I had the privilege today of delivering my very first keynote address to a room of 200 plus educators and I talked about artificial intelligence, this, that, and the buffalo, and the presentation went well. I was asked and invited to be here by ArcBC, the Accessibility Resource Council of British Columbia, talking about the Accessibility Act of British Columbia, and I talked about artificial intelligence and gave a overview of tools that teachers could use to start thinking about how they can bring AI to their students in their classroom space and teach them using artificial intelligence for their own, as well as how students can access it through things like Magic School and School AI and CuraPod and different things like image generation like Adobe Express and Canva. All right, I listened to on the weekend, so I'm reporting on it today for inclusion in episode 186 of Fresh Air at 5. I listened to episode 285 of the Teachers on Fire podcast on Saturday morning live, the video recording between Lauren McLean and Tim Cavey as they talked about outdoor learning. Lauren McLean is an educator from Port Moody, British Columbia, and it was fantastic to hear her again talk about how she does outdoor learning with her students in the forest around their school, kindergartens and grade ones. So little people, and how you can take them outside and have a super rich learning experience. It's important that we get our kids outside, even in secondary and in middle school, getting them outside to have fresh air and doing learning in the outside of the school building while it's possible. All right, Lauren and Tim, thanks so much. It was fantastic. Take a listen to Teachers on Fire, episode 285. All right, without further ado, Carpenter's heading back to Abbotsford soon after our day's done here. Thanks, bye. Hey, PLN, September 25, 2024. Good afternoon. It's not morning anymore, but this morning I did get up and I did listen to 2 podcasts. So this is my reflection later in the day on those 2 podcasts. I didn't do it then because my family was sleeping, as I didn't go outside because it's pouring rain. It's wet out there right now. So I listened to episode 173 of the EdTech Throwdown podcast with Eric Geis and Nick Johnson as they bring us, there's an AI tool for that. And man, I was excited to see that title and to dig into the content that they shared, because reminds me, as you said, Nick, back in the day, back in the early 2000s a while ago, when we got our iPhones and smartphones, and there was an app for that, and I like that. If you take the word app and you leave the A and you leave the stick of the first P and discard the rest, you have what's called, there's an AI for that. So AI is part of app. So it's kind of the same thing. I like the idea of Suno making songs, and I like your ideas about how we can look at using AI tools for our efficiency in our school system. This has been a thought of mine that's been going on for a while as I prepared for the keynote that I delivered this past Monday in Kamloops about artificial intelligence, what teachers can do, what students can do, what they're allowed to do in their district at this point, and moving that conversation down the road towards a better future. All right, appreciate it. Thank you, guys. And take a listen to episode 173 of the EdTech Throwdown with Eric and Nick. And check the show notes, because there's lots of gold there, as always. Bye-bye. The last thing for September 25, 2024. This morning, I also listened to episode 52 of the Digital Learning Podcast with Holly Clark and Matt Miller as they bring us an episode about citing AI, generative text or not. And what do we do about that? And I appreciate this conversation because it's a very nuanced conversation about academic integrity, something that is facing all of us teachers today, and about even the credibility of the work that is coming out of artificial intelligence, large language models, and the responses that we get. This is about media literacy. This is about understanding that AI isn't as smart as we think it is. It's very smart, but how about corroborating the data that comes out of that back to original sources? I like, Matt, your analogy about taking all the bits and pieces at the sausage making factory and putting it into the meat grinder, and it comes out the other side as just an amazing piece of sausage. But if we try to break it down and figure out where that sausage came from, well, it's all mixed up. It's all in there mixed up. You know, we can ask our large language models to give us references, and then it's our job to go corroborate those references and make sure that they are good. So should we be citing AI responses? I think it's about transparency and whether or not students are using them, putting the prompt in there so we can see how they got it. But also, it's kind of like looking back at the early days when Wikipedia came around, and no, you don't use Wikipedia. But Wikipedia is a great place to start because we can get sources out of it. The challenge here with AI is it's difficult sometimes to get those sources out. All right, Holly Clark, Matt Miller, great conversation about citing artificial intelligence. I'm going to pass this along to my colleagues here as well as at school so that we can continue our learning as we go. Okay, have a good day. Bye. Hey PLN, it is Thursday, September 26, 2024. Super exciting day. We are recognizing Orange Shirt Day here in Canada today at our school. Actually at our school. Orange Shirt Day is, I believe, on the 29th or 30th of this month. And it coincides with Truth and Reconciliation Day as we look at how we can, can reconnect with our Indigenous community and how we're reconciling and coming back together from our unfortunate past in our country and making steps towards that. So this is an education day about teaching kids about how we can be caring and kind to one another. We've also got our newsletter build day with the NYC, the newsletter yearbook club. That's NYC Star, not New York City. And what else is going on? Oh, I'm prepping to go fishing this weekend. So that's also on my horizon this afternoon because I'm leaving right after work tomorrow. We have Pro D tomorrow, so we'll be learning some things and then out the door. All right, this morning I listened to episode 191 of the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast with Fuzz Martin and Shanna Martin as they bring us AI-powered quiz tools. And it's really interesting to hear about more and more tools that do similar things. Just like there was an app for that back in the day, there's an AI for that now, and they fit into different categories. Sounds like this is like menu-driven. The prompt engineering's been done for you. You put in your content or website that you would like your quizzes to be built from, and then voila, the magic, because that's what it seems like right now with AI. Understanding how it works is super important, and don't just take the content that is generated by these two tools and give it to your students. We've got Quiz Gecko and Question Well. So take a listen to Shanna and Fuzz talk about these and give them a go. Have a try. All right, talk to you soon. The last thing for September 26, 2024. This is actually the first day I've walked this week because of other things going on. Like I was in Kamloops on Monday, had a keynote, and traveled on Sunday up to Kamloops to get prepared, and then back, and the whole rich life that's going on with my family and all the things. This morning I listened to I just listened to season 5, episode 3 of Teach Happier with Suzanne Daly. And she talks about the little red knob on her Peloton bike and a lesson that she's bringing to us about that her trainer on Peloton talks about, and how she, it's about adding something that she's proud of. And he says, turn it up a little bit, meaning Add something you're proud of, and you're proud of those numbers. But looking in our lives, what do we do? Something that we have added to our lives that we can be proud of. Something that we can say, hey, I did that. And the flip side of that coin is the subtract something that we're proud of. And so it seems like subtraction is always a negative and that it's backwards, but it doesn't have to be. It has to be about our well-being and taking care of ourselves. Suzanne, I've added a keynote address to my things that I do and the implications that come out of that, talking about artificial intelligence and use cases in our school districts here in British Columbia. And then on the flip side of it, I stepped off of a committee, our setup team at church. I've been on it for nearly 20 years and, need to take a rest from that. And I do other things at church. So it's not like I'm not doing anything at church, but just taking one responsibility off so that this guy can be doing better. That's the whole point of all of it, is that we can get along and we can know that we're doing the best that we can. All right. That's all. Have a fabulous day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye. Hey, PLN, happy Friday. It is Friday, September 27, 2024. It's Pro D here, our administrative day where we do things that our admin wants us to do. And we're going to do some learning about Truth and Reconciliation in Canada. We're going to learn about some artificial intelligence and a tool called Creator Plus by Brightspace, and using some AI to help us create content for our Brightspace courses to make them more engaging. So this morning I didn't go for a walk, but I'm out here packing my boat because I'm going fishing after work for the weekend, and too many things to do, but it's been a really full week. I do even have some marking I need to get done before Pro D this morning so that I don't have that on my shoulders over the weekend. This morning I listened to episode 286 with Monica Burns on the Easy EdTech podcast as she talks about supporting the whole learner in an EdTech rich environment. Wow, that's what we've been doing. And just because we have technology doesn't mean it solves the problem about being able to support the whole learner. We just don't get iPads and Chromebooks. And, I'm preaching to the choir because you're listening to me talk, but we don't just, get this technology and voila, it fixes it. It doesn't just fix it. It is one step towards supporting the child in maybe a different way than possible. That's what technology does for us. Thank you, Monica and Shantae Garrett, for your conversation and your connection that you had when you were at ISTE back at the Leadership Summit before ISTE this past June. I appreciate the conversation, gets you thinking, and as I step into Pro D today and we talk about engaging students in our online asynchronous space, we need to be thinking about the whole child and what can we bring to them with technology that would support them, that they can do maybe some activities on paper, thinking about themselves and reflecting and getting back to us. All right, there's a lot going on. Have a fabulous day and happy Friday. And this is the end of episode 186 of Fresh Air at 5.
I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brian Carr, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.